Here I have a character that I'm working on. The challenge for this model is to model everything in Houdini using the modeling tools. And so I started with my base mesh. And this is the low poly. Then I subdivided a bit. Just with some shaders here. And you can go in, take a closer look. Topology is all clean. See just the model itself. And I've been moving each point individually. I've been using, so here's all the network for the modeling. So there's two sections. One was the just basic shapes that I used, that I got from extracting it from the rig and the body of the character. First, here's the model. Created a retopologized version of it using the labs Exodus quad remesher, which is pretty similar to the one that comes in ZBrush. Converted it to a voxel, converted it to geo, and then did a remesh. And then after that I grabbed my rig, which is part of the MetaHuman rig. It's my own custom one. Merged the head and the body and deleted a bunch of bones I didn't need. But the same naming convention persists here. So what I did after that is I started isolating pieces of the bone, mirroring it over, and then I did a for each loop where this is just iterating. Deleted some attributes. This allows me to just shrink the bone size, and then I did a sweep in order to generate a more desirable shape, which is some sort of mesh that I used to grab points. So here in the grab, the groups node, I keep the boundaries, and then I select by bounding object, which then I can split out. Same here, I grabbed the arms, generated an object, split it like that. Here I did the arm guard, grab that, create an assembly node, mirrored it. There's a lot of debugging that goes on when I'm doing this stuff, and sometimes I can't exactly remember unless I start digging in deep. I'm just trying to do a quick overview. This is a chest bone. Creating the chest plate, grabbing the chest. This is probably a little different because I generated 3 bounding boxes and then converted them to PDBs. We got our object, smoothed it, fused it, mirrored it. Well, I clipped it and then mirrored it just to make sure it was good. I probably moved it into place a bit. We isolated our section right there, and we split it up, did a poly bevel down the middle, and then I booleaned it. I went in here and I grabbed some bones. This is overall just to like rough out some sort of shapes. It's not really like a very key modeling step, but so I created some objects so I could like boolean stuff out, and I used some of the bones. I used the arm bones. created a cylinder and I put it in there, merged it all together, and then I boolean it out. Then I did a Exodus quad remesh, which then cleaned up some of the topology. So similar to how you do it in ZBrush. So I then cut it in half, and then I place a stash node just to cache out whatever I've done to this point. I made a couple of edits here, and this is where it starts getting into the modeling side of things, where you could select, in this case I selected this region here. This is a soft radius selection, and then I started using the Topobuild to do more edits, and then this is a modeling node from a plugin that I have, Modeler 2021, and this tool has its own, so I have a bunch of these nodes that are right here. Got a bunch of these nodes which are a plugin that I have. You could also use just a mirror. It's just a little bit different, but essentially does similar thing. If you don't have that plugin, it's just the same thing in a way. This one is a little bit more cleaner, has more features. Then stashed it again, and then I started just going in and making more edits, mirroring them over. More edits. I'm going to show you the edit node. We go and grab, let's say, if I go and Shift A, I can do this sort of longer selections. I can click one place, Shift A, and then I push T, which then automatically creates that node, which is just creates a node. So we could go 2, 3, 4, changes the type over here in this corner. So we go to line, make our selection, and T. I created an attribute, so this is like a name attribute, and it just creates a name attribute from the attribute wrangle node name, and it just, that's OS, it's the name of the node, plus geo, which is an extension to the name. There's prefix and then postfix. It just adds to whatever this other name is. And then here we got the name attribute, the path attribute, and a material attribute. And for the name attribute, they all come here. If you're in Maya and you name your objects in the outliner, when you export them as an FBX or anything into Houdini, like an Alembic file, they usually come with a path attribute, and it's just based from the name. Here in Houdini, we like to use the name attribute. If you're exporting to Unreal, Unreal wants a FBX material name, and that's how it generates materials from that name and the path name. There's these three attributes are pretty key to exporting to like Unreal and things like that for assigning materials. So after we do that, do the same thing for the shoulder, but in this case I started modeling stuff from the shoulder. We just created one of these spheres from the bones of the shoulder. Started going in here with this Topobuild. So if we type tab and we type Topobuild, we can start editing a bunch of things. So we got this tool. We could select multiple lines like this and then move them by clicking on them. If you click on it and then do that, it pops out. End does that, but it also starts to weld, so it welds, and you can start to do some sort of moving. And then if you click each element, you can just click and drag them. If I go Shift 3, these tools up here change. They'll have their own hotkeys. If I put Shift 3, it does, and then push Shift, I can do edge loops. If I don't push Shift, then I can do cuts. So I'm getting used to these tools and their hotkeys. Let's undo a bunch of these things. Also, I could just click objects like that, push Shift A with this, and I just click delete, and they just delete. So this is a non-procedural node, which means that whatever you do to it, it will not be procedurally stored. It would just be a destructive operation. But you know, you could just do by section. I mean, it's when it starts getting non-procedural, which is something that I think it's okay to do with modeling at this specifications and details. There's also this move brush, which I can just push Shift and then make bigger. So this is sort of like a move brush, and I can use it to shape things with the brush. It's like a move brush, and then there's a slide, and the slide allows me to slide things if I want to move some topology around. And yeah, so that's just a couple of tools in that one. This is smooth, so sometimes we want to smooth some of our details. And yeah, and then now the edit node, we just select our points, and then we push. You could go edit, like tab edit, but I don't, it's kind of like the long way to do it. The other way to do it is to just click the points and then push T. Let's do that again. So select our points, T, and then boom, there's our control handles. And these have different options here for global, local, stuff like that. And then the soft selection, which there should be something to show the selection smoothness, but I'm not sure why it's not showing it. Sometimes there's bugs in the editor, so I have to open up a new scene like this. So let's select this point and push T, and there we go. Oh, okay, so every time I open the viewport, it goes back to this, set as default. Okay, there. So Control Shift W allows me to show the wireframe, and yeah, I can now control this. It'd be nice to have this. I need to have this in like some sort of slider eventually. Oh, is it? Oh, right there. Right there it is. That's the slider right there. Then if I turn it off to 0, it just hides. And that's it. Well, there's other, for example, poly split. It's a procedural node, which then I can add, for example, if I want another, I can just type split, poly split, and then this, I can do this type of thing, but it can only make one split at a time. If I do edge loop, I can do, let's see, yeah, this. If I actually, so if I have if I use a mouse, I could kind of scroll with my scroll wheel and then define how many loops I want. See how there's different, maybe it's, oh, it's a snapping feature. So I'll snap it in the middle, and then here I can change how many loops I want. Yeah, like that. And then this is, I guess, yeah, there's different options for that. But then that means that you could turn them off after and delete them. But it kind of breaks if you start to delete what's above. So that's when you have to start thinking about how, when you are in Maya, for example, you're modeling and you're kind of destructing whatever you're doing before. But here you do have some options to go back. But generally, when you're modeling like this, don't really want to have to go back. But it kind of, sometimes you might want to just split out your meshes into different sections, because sometimes you do want to be able to undo. For example, this subdivide node, I'm not really want to keep it, but I already added this subdivision down the line to all the other pieces. So if you come here, and then now we see everything, all the pieces that we extracted. I don't necessarily want this subdivision, so I can just go here and remove it. I can also remove some of these, edge loops. That way we can go back in some sections. That was just for a very rough selection of things based on the body retopo that we did over here. So yeah, here you can see those pieces were extracted. And the shoulders I sort of already moved a bit, and the chest plate, but the other pieces are just very the same. But then I gave this a pose. If we look over here at our concept art, so this is our concept art. I lined up this camera with a background image, and I rotated my character there. I had a rig, so I sort of rigged the body here, and I have a couple of poses. Don't mind, this is more like the rig of the meta-human rig and stuff like that, which I'll show it in another video at another point. But here I want to show you the different poses that I have. There's an overall generic rig with poses and things like this. So let me see if I find it. It's over here. Oh yeah, right here. So it's kind of a little bit hard to find. I should have a group set up for this so I can find it. So show groups. Okay, I'll name this poses, and that way I can select it a little quicker. Yeah. So call it switch. Pose a switch, and yeah, so there we go. We got different poses that I've set up before. Deform node. So I've painted some weights and things like this here, but originally the character's like that. Let's get out of this camera. So this is how you pan, and I could. This is the meta-human with my face, you could pan with this and then go back, space G. Yeah, so this is pretty much the meta-human, which then I have the rig scaled to match my concept art, and we can sort of toggle that off and on here. So let's see the posing. So I scaled because the proportions are totally different. I had to scale so when I do skeleton blend from our T-pose, so this is our T-pose, which matches the body over here. The proportions didn't match the concept art, so then I had to create a new pose using the rig pose, and I just pretty much scaled, grab that arm, and I just move them and rotate them, and that kind of stuff gets stored over here, and they can be animated and things like that. So then I did a mirror, which I selected half the bones on this body, and then did some naming convention type of thing where it just flipped it over and mirrored it, because the original pose was to match the concept art. So you can see the arm and stuff, it's not symmetrical. So then when I did a rig mirror, it then just mirrors everything over, and it keeps all the name conventions with the L and the R. Then I took my T-pose and made a blend, a skeleton blend, where I transfer from one to the other one, and this is the animation, because this geometry has to be captured with the T-pose, and the T-pose is sort of like the bind pose right here, and then from there it animates it to the concept art, and the concept art then goes from that to that. As you can see, the proportions of the scaling and everything gets kind of really big, and to fix that you could kind of do this where you kind of remove the scaling. Let's see. Oh, so I could do that, right? Which is just kind of weird. It doesn't apply the scaling, it just applies the transforms, and it keeps the body, but I just felt like the body was too thin and I wanted it a bit more bulky. It just doesn't work very well for the feet and stuff, and the arms. It just makes them look too stretched out. So what I did is I kept the scale, and then I fixed it after, just process it differently, and then we get our body matching the concept part. Here's a switch to just, I can go and actually match this or that. This is more symmetrical for modeling, so now we got our actual symmetrical model, and then we can switch it to this, and we can then rig the armor and match the concept art. So then I grab this, so you can go Control C to copy this node path, and then we took it over here to this node, which then you just paste it in here. Oh, actually that's the rig. So we're getting the rig, this node here with the animations, and then we're putting it here, and then we're taking the body and we're putting it down here. A little bit hard to find, but usually maybe you could do this a little bit to identify it a little bit better. Let's see, like that. Here we put our body. We do a merge object node, which then brings in that other one. And I started grouping certain things. Just select the stuff like that. You could do edge loops and then Shift G to grow it. We could do shrink selection is Shift S. So Shift S and then Shift G to grow. And then the feet. So I selected the feet. Could also go here and then see our groups. So let's just jump forward and we have hands and feet, and did a butt crack. You'll see why, because I did when I do a shrinking of the entire body, I start ignoring certain areas. So like I ignored the neck, and this means everything, and then this symbol means except. So this whole group is just the neck part, well all the head parts here, and then hands. So don't select the hands, the feet, or the butt, because for example if I don't add the butt, what happens is that it just gets shrinked. So this is a peak node. It's like inflation. It's like inflating. In ZBrush it's like inflate, but it's an overall inflate. But then when I type this symbol with our other group, it just ignores it, but then it does this weird deformations everywhere, which then we need to fix. Then after that I adjusted the hands, so I made them a little bit smaller, and then the feet made them a little bit smaller, controlling all the parts. And then I did a expansion of the hands, so I expanded the group of the hands by giving it the hands group, naming it the new group, and then I can do a expansion group. So let me see if that works. So I can type this expansion over here. So when I move this, it just expands the group, and then that way I can smooth it. So then I give it the feet and the hands, and then I smooth it out. That way I can kind of clean up some of those weird deformations there. Then I did the neckline, which was this weird one here, and the armpit. I expanded those groups a bit. Yeah, the neckline and the butt. Then I started smoothing stuff out. There we go. Then fix the normals. Yeah, otherwise the normals are still there. And then we're here, you can see the clean results. Yeah, so there we go. And the feet are, so this is very stylized at this point. You can see a lot of I just like this proportions way more than the other ones. And then when we look at our concept art, let's see. There we go. Oh, this is I have an output node here which forces the viewing of the bottom node. Let's see if I can hide it. No, I gotta remove it. There we go. So there, yeah. There it is. So I roughly matched it. Now we started modeling the armor. Yeah, the armor then that we had before was brought in. Let me see, where did I bring it? Oh, so okay, we got the symmetry, and then okay, here it comes in. The armor came from right all the way down here. I split it because at some point I have it rigged here. That way when we go back to our poses, when we change this, the armor also sort of changes like that. But I didn't rig. Well, I sort of started splitting it up between the rig and the custom pieces, like the chest and the shoulder pads. So I kind of like temporarily like left that in there. Oh, I just need to change back. I should have that toggle over here in a null. Like I can actually grab this switch attribute and copy that, and then bring it over here, and then set a null with switch poses. Control. And then I'm just kind of getting sidetracked in here, but let's just set this up for just an example, just like a workflow that could be made things a little easier. I'll promote it over here. Oh, maybe that's what I need to do. So promote it up here, and then I'll name this pose switch. And then we got it up here. It's a little bit easier to access. We could kind of pin that. Go over here. We can change our poses. Then once we got it right here, we can go to the node inside, and we just create a integer, and we name it, and then now this integer won't do anything, but if we just copy copy the parameter and then go here to the switch pose, all we gotta do is paste relative reference, and now when you switch this, then that one switches right there. Yeah, this is not this is showing the another output, but this is the results. So yeah, there's taking the we can change the poses from inside here. And then we don't have to go all the way down there and toggle this node. Essentially, this one goes to here, and then this is driven by this. So yeah. So this is the main modeling part finally, where I started more going in and customizing more pieces. Started with the shoulder pad, blasting that null. We could probably like point to this and then it would work, but let's just leave it there for now because I spent a lot of time on that. I splitted that wristband, and then I dissolved all these pieces. So dissolve just gets rid of those points, and then I moved a bunch of these points around. If I grab this node and I push enter and I go shift 1, I started moving stuff like this, kind of matching to the concept art. So I would go a little bit like this. You can split this panels out and put them on the other side of the computer, the monitor. So I would go in a little bit, and then I would start sort of moving these pieces. I think I still need to do some work on this proportions, but you gotta be careful in here because they do stick together. This helps, but it also sometimes makes it a little bit hard because this works for like major movements of the topology, but when you kind of start getting into like really dense geometry, I think the edit node is going to be more useful. Now we started to, I cached this. Oh, I edited a lot of the thigh guard here. This one. And then I think for the knee, for example, I'll do the knee again here, just for showing purpose. Just want to show you this tool. I go mesh, and then Topobuild, which is Shift Z. I do Shift Z. It's selecting my node because I'm already on it. So let's just do a stash, just so we could start new node. Go Shift Z, and it just creates a Topobuild brush, which then I go enter, click, and then Shift A, and then delete. And so I can now start to clean up that mesh. For this section on the bottom, I actually don't have a kneecap. So what I can do is I can start creating one from, let's see, creating a point accidentally there. So, oh no, it kind of goes back to that stash. And I'm gonna push this modeling tool. Kind of clashes with the Houdini hotkeys, so it's kind of, I don't prefer using the modeling extension because I'd rather use the Houdini's default keys. Otherwise I start kind of confusing the hotkeys. I like the nodes, but I don't necessarily like the hotkeys. So I'd rather do like my own search, like poly draw, and then Yeah, I just used the Houdini's default hotkeys. Do that, and then Shift 3 and Shift 1 to start getting rid of the snapping. It's a little sensitive, but it just takes some time to get used to it. Delete, and now we got that piece. Do that. At this point, I recommend I would sort of like just cancel that tool and then S, and then select this whole section, double tap, and then I would like split it, because the benefit of splitting stuff is that then you could do different like name attributes and then merge it back. But the benefit is that then you could then start using the brush, which helps a little bit with the moving of stuff, but it's not perfect. Let me see if I could do. I see that it's not. Maybe I need a transparency mode. Yeah, see how it's not touching the other side? So I'm not sure what that's about. It only does stuff to the view opacity. What does that mean? 1? Huh. No, I think that's the strength. I would just use the edit node if I want to move a bunch of these things. So converting selections. So you can select that and then right click it and then go convert selection to points. Then I have this. It's a bit buggy. It's not showing me the fall off. Usually that requires me to start a new scene view. I don't know what's up with that scene view. Always crashing. I don't know what it is, but it happens a lot. If things don't really show up, you just need to reset the scene view. Yeah, so thing about that is that if you start editing another side, the last one won't be there anymore. You're disrupting the last operation, you're overriding it. But that's how it is here. It's just different order of operations. Maybe a bit slower to you get used to it. You know, there's other benefits sometimes to having things procedural and combined with this at the same time. You have to, because you could do multiple things at the same time, like rigging and naming things within Houdini. Yeah, so that's just an example of how you would go about like modeling certain pieces. Yeah. If I have this like that, then I could do a mirror. Just do this mirror. Just mirrored it over. Here's one more trick that I want to go over with the edit node. It's how to snap, which is a very common operation, and how to move the pivot point. If I select a point, push T, then I can move the point. So now if I want to snap it, there's this button here which then snaps to point. So then I can snap up there. So I want to snap this over here. There's a more useful place. So I can go there, S and T, and then go there, and then go S and T. Now we've got our different points, but they have been moved by snap. Like that. Another thing that we might want to do is a pivot rotation. So let's say we got our selection here, and then we want to rotate it. So undo this. Then I want to rotate it first. I want to rotate it, let's say from like up here at this point. So I go insert, and I push insert, and then now that gives me a handle, and then so if I just move this, it will snap to this point, and then I push insert again, and then now I can actually move from that angle there. Now I can also push insert again, move it over here, insert again, and then now I can move from this point, and then I can snap over here, and I can insert and then move this. I can change the pivot of that, and insert, and then we got movement again. Let's see if we want this. Rotate it from, let's say, from the back, from this angle, then there we go. Same with, let's do it with this. That, insert, move this here, insert, and we can rotate from there. So this is a very common thing that you need for aligning things, a lot of hard surface or stuff like that. So I wanted to go through that. You know, the whole point is like you don't have to think about breaking stuff when you're modeling like this. Just keep moving forward, and just cache it, and then just kind of forget about the rest. So you do end up with a bunch of nodes, but just ignore them. Focus on the topology that you gotta get. This piece, so the back of the back plate, what I did was I just mirrored it. So I selected it. I selected this whole front part, went connected, geometry. And then I just like mirrored it over to the backside using this direction, move it to the back. And then I went with the edit and I moved it into position and started extracting some pieces from the top to go around the shoulder. Then I mirrored it, stashed it, and then here's the cool part of procedural stuff that you could do. It's then I did a extrusion of everything. Go poly extrude, and then that creates a group here. So I go backside, so that creates the backside. It creates a group called extrude side. So that would be the side group of that extrusion, which would be, let me do a color. So the normals are messed up now. Let's fix them quickly. Yeah, see that? So that is the side extrusion that came from just doing the extrude operation. So then I grabbed that and I fed it to another one, and that way I could kind of like extrude this way. That created another group, which then I extruded again. In this case, it's extruding both. So you give it the group here, and then it extrudes both side. I could have done a group delete on this one. Yeah, I wouldn't need to name them differently. This could be side extrude 1, and then side extrude 2, and then now I guess I don't need to delete it. You could delete one of them, but now in this one I could just do, so which one of those two sides I want to extrude. So I could go 1 or 2. Okay, no, 1. I could do 1 and 2, but something is wrong. Oh, right, because this one needs to be named 1. Okay. I could do extrude 1 or 2. Yeah, a bit confusing. That's just I'll just keep it anyways. Just do 1 and 2. But yeah, you get some control. That's my point. You get some control over how you want to extrude that, and then do a soft normal. Let's fix that up, and could do subdivide. Now with the switch node, I can go between my low poly and my high poly with the bevels. I could always go back and do my stuff over here and then reapply that bevel edges operation. That way I can kind of start getting like a preview of everything. And here it is. It's a turntable node, which just gives it a rotation. And I could just toggle like materials, stuff like that. There it is. hope you learned something. This is still a lot of work in progress, and need to continue adding a bunch of more details and gloves and the inner structure between the plates, the helmet, and that's something that I'll be continuing to work in the future. So, thanks for watching, and until next time.